Welcome to the Genre Hustle, your virtual sci-fi fantasy writers group. I'm Anton.
I'm Carter.
I'm AP.
I'm Chelsea.
I'm Jane.
I'm Chris.
I'm Lucy.
And we're all here tonight.
We're in this
one. The last episode of season 2. Woo! Very excited to be here. And we're going to do another writing gripes because we've had a whole season of writing and talking. And so now we're ready to complain.
We just haven't griped enough.
We've been ready.
We've been ready. We could have done this every episode, I think, so far, but we saved it up.
We kind of did already.
We do. We have opinions on things.
We've got opinions.
Every episode is its own gripe.
Yeah,
True.
And we'll like try to be constructive and informative and stuff, but no promises.
Yeah.
All right, AP, you're going to start us off just because I'm staring at you and you're at the top of the board.
So
Why are you
what
staring at me?
what do you hate the most about things that you read, or what
Oh man,
really?
there's so many to
What
choose
really
from.
So much
Grinds your
hatred
gears.
boiling within.
I'm just seething anytime. No. So I came up with two. One is from when I'm reading something, and one is from my own writing because we're all trying to get better. So I figured again, let's turn it inwards and
Well, let's
Make it
turn it
about you.
outwards first.
Yeah.
Because that's fun.
Okay, fine. All right. So the first one, when I'm reading, I've read a couple books this year where the main character, the hero, refuses the call to action, and that's not my problem with it. My problem is when the hero obviously comes from a terrible life. They're like an orphan on the street, or they're a farmer, or like their life just sucks, and they discover they're the one, or they get told that they're the one, and they refuse that. They're like, no, I don't want a better life. I don't
like
want
it
things.
here in the sewers.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm gonna muck crap for the rest of my life. That's my thing. I'm just like, that's so.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't possibly be the chosen one. I've never thought about that before.
I'm going to stay here begging on the streets.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why aren't you jumping at this opportunity to get the hell out of your life? It's like,
But isn't that structure taking over the logic, because the writer is thinking,
Yeah.
must have debate section.
Yeah,
will
exactly.
not go,
Right.
will go, will not go.
so there's got to be better ways to have a debate than like, oh, my life is clearly terrible. I have this opportunity to not.
I think you have to
terrible
create
life.
a good reason to
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is your
Doesn't-
opportunity to.
But just to push back a little bit, doesn't being the one also come with concomitant risks? Like, you're the one and you're going to take the sword and defeat the enemy all by yourself.
Right,
Good
he go-
luck.
And he goes, what's a sword?
that or starve on the street or get killed in a gang fight.
So
I'm like,
I hear what you're
know.
saying, Jane, and
Yeah.
I think that like that actually would be a pretty solid like character driven reason for them to refuse the call at first. I think what AP is talking about is it's really annoying when they refuse the call because clearly just the author wants them
You're
to.
just out of hand,
or
right?
they're
You
like
know?
a snarky teen and they're like, no, I don't want to do this. And you're just like,
Yeah.
what?
You're not the boss of me.
Anyway, so that's my number one.
That's a good one. That's a good start off.
I dislike reading that.
Yeah. If your character is going to refuse the call, there's got to be a character reason for them
A
to.
character reason.
do
Yeah,
that.
they're
Yeah.
cowardly.
Work with the trope,
or
but
they're-
please don't have them be an orphan.
Yeah, and it's like you always say, Chelsea, like what teenage boy doesn't think that they can save the world? And
Right? You're 16. You've just been told, like, you can save the world. Like, who's going to be like, no, that doesn't sound like me at all. Come on.
Are there going to be girls there?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna miss prom.
excellent teenage boy voices, you guys.
Really good.
We've all
really
been
good.
teenage boys before, so
I haven't.
But aren't we over the
something to look
chosen
forward
one
to.
stories by this point?
true.
Please?
There's also I mean, I guess there's that too.
Are we still churning them out? I guess we are.
Of course.
Well, yeah, but I think there's a place for chosen one stories. Like, we've seen a lot of sort of white male chosen one stories, but if a black girl gets to be the chosen one, let's let her have her moment, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think there's still a place for chosen one, but I think being aware of the tropes and being aware of what's come before, that's important.
I always see it as like, don't make it easy for your characters. Like I always go back to that rule. Like if they're just going to accept being the chosen one, then there's something wrong. But they have to,
Sure.
they have to your point, AP, like they can't just accept it or they can't refuse it just to refuse it. There has to be a
There's a middle ground.
Right,
There's
there's a-
something. Yeah.
Well, I think to Lucy and Jane's points, like to me, like the chosen one story is like a totally like valid way to write a story. Like my whole thing with tropes is that tropes are not bad, especially if you're
Yeah.
writing,
Yeah, for
in
sure.
a genre. It's like more important to be aware of them and like maybe try to use them in a new way.
Yeah,
But
it shouldn't
it's
be
like,
a crutch.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a crutch, but it also shouldn't be something that you avoid just because it's been done before. 'Cause,
No, I
mean,
agree, but there has to be a fresh take on it somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
Ideally,
You can't just tell the
yes.
same story over and over again.
Well, yeah, if you don't want to make money.
Wait, we're doing this to make money?
That sweet genre fiction money. Here it comes.
Anyway, what's your second gripe?
So my second to turn it inwards, I've noticed. Actually, I shouldn't say I've noticed. I've been made to notice that
We've told
Other,
in my
other
own
people
writing,
have noticed on your behalf.
Yeah, exactly. I like to repeat things in my
I'm sorry, what'd you
writing.
say?
I like to. I like to state something and then state it another way and then state it a third way. It's like this pattern that I have when I'm writing. I don't know if it's me trying to be clever or literary or
I think
whatever.
that's something we all do at certain times, and I
for
think
sure.
we do it for various reasons. One reason I think is insecurity. So so you write something and you're like, are they going to get what I mean, or should I hammer it home a little bit more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there's that aspect of it, and then I think there's like an unconscious version of that where you do it without being aware of it.
I think another like big reason, as somebody who's both critiqued and edited your work, AP,
And told me that I do this.
well, but I think that a big reason why you do it and why probably a lot of people do it, myself included, is because sometimes you get lost in the prose. Sometimes you write a sentence that just sounds beautiful in your head while you're writing it and reading it to yourself, and you kind of like get taken out of the actual story you're writing, and you don't realize that, oh, I've said this before. Because like, in the context
Sure.
of what you're writing, like you used really good, cool words and like it sounds great to you, but you don't realize that like, oh, these words are not giving any new information. And you kind of have to like give the reader more credit than that, I guess.
For sure. I've been told the same. People are like, your words kind of get in the way of your meaning. And that's what they mean, is that I fall in love with certain phrases and I don't think of the scene as a whole and what it
Yeah,
means.
totally.
Well, AP, your settings are really rich. And so I think, and you obviously have had a lot of fun with the world and you've put a lot of thought into it. And that's obviously coming through very clearly when you talk about it. There's a lot of love and a lot of care there. And I wonder if some of that might be a contributing factor as well, because you really actually want to explore the entire thing, but we as readers don't need to be dragged through every aspect.
Yeah, you want to give the reader room to fill in some of the gaps themselves. You want to like give them space, give them enough description and enough information so that you get your point across, but not so much to where you're telling them every little detail. Let them fill it in, use their imagination a little bit, especially in fantasy,
Yeah, definitely.
I also think it's like a thing that happens in early drafts.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to explore the world and set your scenes and write your characters, and you have it just happens.
You're just getting words on the page.
Yeah, and you're gonna, well, not just that, but you're gonna you're still figuring out your character, who they are and the
Your
themes
voice
that
a
you're
little
talking
bit.
about and the voice, and so you're gonna circle back to things, and that's stuff that you're just gonna take out in later drafts.
Especially with fantasy. You get it all the
Right.
time. Wait, how does that magical object work? It works this way. This is
Right.
what it does. And what do you mean by that? This is what it does.
Totally.
And tell me
Yeah.
again what
Yeah.
it does. But it's really you trying to figure out the mechanics of what your magic
Yeah.
system
How does
is.
this work?
And you don't realize you've said it 3 times in the last
And
8
before you
pages.
know it,
yeah.
you've got 5 pages of explanation.
Or 3 times within the last paragraph.
Right.
And that's where your friendly neighborhood writers group comes in to
Exactly.
get that
Yeah.
shit out of
We
your
are
writing.
bored.
You referred to this person the same way, the same time. On
The
same
shining
page.
paladin.
Yes, exactly.
Big man, Anton.
Listen, I'm completely guilty.
We
of
all
this,
know
yeah.
Gislin was a
We
big
all know
man.
Gislin is
Same.
a big guy, right? I got that
Same.
note. Yeah, I got that note.
Jane, what are your gripes?
Yeah, well, I have one, and it's something that I don't like about when I read, but it's also something that ironically I do. So it's a little bit.
Let's talk about that.
I know. Would you like to lie on the couch and discuss your feelings about this? So I blame the Bronte sisters actually for this, which is the brooding alpha male hero, because Heathcliff and Mr. Rochester are both, they can't talk about their feelings and they're super self-centered and they express love through trying to control other people.
I don't know anyone like that.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say, you said
right.
it's like it's a problem.
And I think when I was younger, I found that trope really interesting because I was like, oh, he's so wounded and he's so mysterious, and but now I just find myself very tired of it.
It's boring.
It's boring, and we've to what we were talking about earlier, it's a trope we've seen a lot, and so on. But then I realized when I was drafting my first novel, and I got a lot of notes back about my main character, who is a 14-year-old girl, but they were like, she doesn't really seem to be in touch with her feelings. And she doesn't really have a way of expressing how she feels about other people. And I was like,
she reads like a Victorian baron.
To be fair, you named her Thorn, Jane.
So I realized that I actually do that. And I'm actually on some level still very attracted to the characters that don't express their feelings very readily.
No, it's toxic.
I'm
It's
struggling
toxic.
with that. I'm struggling with how do I write a character like that without falling into those tropes that I find.
But isn't that
boring.
life that we pick out in others what we fear in ourselves the most?
Totally.
We'll get to that later.
That stings.
Welcome to the psychology hospital.
You may all lie in the sofa.
No, you're so right, Lucy. That's exactly what's happening. Help me.
Well, I think that it can also be attractive as a writer to write characters that keep a lot of their feelings to themselves, because then you are kind of holding your cards close to your chest, when you're writing, and
That's a good point.
You feel like you're showing and not telling, and you feel like you're writing subtle characters, when in reality you might just be writing like boring asshole characters. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with like characters of any kind. It's tricky.
Yeah, that line between like stoic and asshole is really thin, actually.
Right.
You're telling
me. You're towing it right now, buddy.
Yeah.
No.
We're talking about writing, not
Oh,
real
sorry.
life.
I thought we were still talking psychology here.
It's like, how valid is this character's trauma really?
So I think I actually have the opposite problem of that, and it's exactly the same thing. I don't like it when I read it, and I do it all the time. When I read back my own work, I think, why is everyone shouting when they're angry, and they're crying when they're sad, and they're falling down on the floor, and it's like some old Italian music, theater piece. It just comes like so melodramatic to me when I read my own work back after having a little distance from it for a while. And I think it's because speed is your enemy when you're writing a first draft. And so emotions, he shouted or he yelled or he slammed the door. But in reality, when people are angry, they do very interesting things. I think my first theater teacher told me this. One of the best expressions of anger when people get really angry is they talk very quietly and they have complete control because they're trying to control themselves. So not going for the obvious emotion is something that I'm learning a lot about in writing. And I think that it irks me when I read it as well, when characters are screaming because they're super angry or they're bawling because they're sad about something. I think it's more interesting. There are so many other ways to express
because
sadness,
if they're at 100%, I mean, where do you go from there? What's like if
What is
they're
the
already
journey?
like pinning the needle on whatever emotion they're feeling, you've got no spectrum to explore with them.
Yes, and it's true to life as well. It takes a lot for someone to yell about something. They will usually try.
That's true,
Depends
yeah.
who.
That's true. But we
yeah.
don't go about our daily
setting
lives.
Anton aside.
That's just his conversational voice. He's
We
not yelling.
generally have mastery over ourselves to a certain degree on
Yeah,
a day-to-day
absolutely.
basis.
I was listening to an audiobook not too recently ago, but it was a sci-fi book, and I didn't love the book to begin with, but the thing that really got me was all of the characters. Every time there was an action sequence, somebody would yell, "My God!" And
like at that point, now you're paying attention.
and you could see the exclamation points there, like in my head as I was hearing the thing, and I was just like, "I'm gonna punch everybody if this keeps up." Yeah,
My God.
yeah, it was a lot, but like I can't remember who said this, but I read this recently. Like somebody made a joke, like you get like 3 exclamation points in your entire writing career that you can use
in your entire career.
in your career.
Yeah.
Not even per book.
I think
Just-
that's being
crap.
generous.
Yeah, I've used mine up long
me
ago.
too. Me
Yeah.
too.
What's the economy on ellipses?
You can't. Jake
Zero.
Brand.
You can't.
None.
Zero.
None.
Apparently,
No
but I use them
ellipses.
all the time.
I love
Oh my God.
I love dashes too.
Oh yeah,
Dashes are okay.
Dashes are okay, right? Because
okay.
that's the jump cut, right?
Oh, I'm an M dash junkie. I'm like addicted to those things.
Oh, yeah.
I use M dashes all the time, way more than I should probably.
I mean, Emily Dickinson. Hello, a single poem would contain like 4 of them, right? Come on.
yeah, exactly.
If she can do it,
Be
we
like
can
Emily
do it.
Dickinson.
I'm just the same as Emily Dickinson.
You know, that's absolutely
what I've
true.
always said.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
So just to kind of bring it back to Lucy's point a little bit, and not that punctuation isn't fascinating, but it occurred to me, I wonder if, and maybe especially newbie writers do write with some hyperbole just because they're trying to sound epic. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of us are writing epic fantasy, epic sci-fi, space opera, really big things. And so it's like, big events, big emotions, explosions, and whatever else. But like your characters don't have to be like, they don't have to experience the most heightened version of whatever it is that they're going through all the time, because it's actually tiring to read.
I totally agree.
I think that's exactly the point. You think that as a writer, you should be, okay, this is the big climactic moment. Everything should be happening. Everything
Like,
should
it's
be
your first
massive.
chapter, back it down.
Yeah,
Just back it down.
They haven't left the tavern yet. Like, let's relax a minute.
And it's also a way, I think we're trying to show stakes. And showing
Right.
emotional reaction is a really good way to show stakes, right? So I think it's natural that we do
Yeah,
that.
you're doing the right
Yeah.
things. You're showing, not telling, and you
Yeah.
want to present the character's emotions. So you do want to present, but you're right. AP said it before. You don't want to pin the needle every time.
Yeah.
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 So a lot like what I was saying about repetition, I think that, when you're in like a really emotionally heightened area, that's another place where you can kind of let the reader do some of the work, and where the reader like wants to fill in some of the gaps. If you tell the reader someone is shooting laser guns at the protagonist, you don't need the protagonist to say, "My God!" exclamation point.
Someone
Just
is
for them
shooting
to-
laser guns at me.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Lasers are dangerous.
Yeah. If I get hit by this laser, I'm going to be in a world of trouble.
But I think it's all about subtlety.
Stop reading all my stuff, Carter.
And I'm learning that someone that grips a table during an argument, that's more interesting and says more to me than
absolutely.
someone
totally.
that is yelling. Just looking for unique ways to express common emotions.
Totally.
Yeah, and the real mastery is when the characters can express those emotions in distinct ways that are unique to the character, right? That's what I aspire
that's next season.
to.
That's the master
yeah,
level.
that's next season.
Bow down.
I think that's like 4 seasons from now.
How about you, Chris?
How about me?
What do you hate?
Stewing over there.
Chris is
Right.
perfect. He has an agent. Everything's
right.
fine.
Yeah, but Chris,
Let's-
All right, so let's talk about my
let him off
gripe
the
about
leash.
my own writing then. So last season on writing gripes, AP mentioned getting called out by the writers group for the male gaze, right? And he copped to it and fixed his writing and blah blah blah. So something similar happened to me recently. So I'm working on this new novel called The Anomaly, and there are 2 really important female characters in the book, and I got a lot of feedback about them not being as fully fleshed out as they could be. And so I submitted it for beta read, and I got a lot of comments about it, but the one that stands out I'm going to read is from my friend Hope,
Or a quote.
Oh yeah.
who is
Smackdown.
Hope Coppinger at H Coppinger, Coppinger on Twitter. And this is what she said to me about one of my main female characters, Eloise. Eloise, sweet, pretty Eloise. She must stop warmly touching people, and we cannot hear about her hair or her eyes more than twice. She goes on. There's a moment when she's finally getting a real task, explaining how to fly a ship, and you mention her hair, and I was ready to get on the next flight to LAX so I could kick you in the shins.
Is there more of this?
I
Oh, there's more,
Does
but
she critique everything we write?
she's great. She's
Says it like it is.
she doesn't fuck around. Thanks for that, Hope. It's great. But so this is something that I'm struggling with in my own writing. I feel like it's something I'm aware of on an intellectual level, but when I go to write, I still am ending up with these characters, and I'm sort of vaguely quoting from Cameron Hurley here. So I've been listening on audiobook to the Geek Feminist Revolution, and she has an essay in that book called In Defense of Unlikable Women, where she talks about female characters that lack flaws and complexity. And that to me is exactly what I'm lacking with these characters, and it's very painful. to deal with that.
So I'm just going to toss this out there. Have you considered writing a woman the way you might write a man?
I feel like I tried and I failed.
Well, how many times did you describe Jean's hair?
So
None.
exactly,
None.
you're exactly
None.
right.
Yeah, I don't
Not
even
a
know
single
what
time.
color it is or how long
Yeah.
it is.
Or what
I've-
John feels or thinks.
Chris, I literally filled in you, like just your face for Jean the entire time because I don't think we got any character description
Yeah,
of him.
yeah, that's another problem. Thanks,
are we
Chelsea,
doing
for
this
pointing
now?
out
I'm
all
all
my
on board.
problems.
I'm going to gripe about
the
that
thing
later.
is
We're gonna do a
that-
whole hour on this.
So, but I think you think that you approached Eloise like or a female character the way that you would a man, but we got none character description for Jean. We got
Right.
a little bit for the dad, but then we got a lot for Eloise. So, just think about like the type of attention that you're paying to Jean versus Eloise.
And some
Yeah.
of that I think is fine because when you do feel very attracted to someone, you do hone in on things about
Sure,
them
yeah.
that you find
For sure.
attractive, just probably not in the moment
Yeah.
in which they're
Well, and I think
teaching you
It's
how
the
to-
wrong moment,
I
yeah.
don't know, there is room for that both ways.
absolutely, but I think because we have some emotional distance from Jean for so much of the book, him calling out and like kind of pinging on specific things about her body felt like it was coming from the narrator because we didn't know that it was coming from Jean.
I think it can definitely
that's-
be a
that's
POV issue or like something to keep in mind, like if you're writing a male character and they're, looking at someone that they think is attractive, then like probably they might think about certain aspects of their appearance in a way that like you
Sure.
might not want to write from an omniscient point of view without it seeming weird.
Right.
The thing that I always really bothers me, which we talked about in the previous writing gripe, is when it's a female POV character written by a male author who's like thinking about her body and her hair and her boobs and stuff.
Right.
Well,
no,
sure,
I
that's
learned
a
from
separate
AP's
issue.
mistakes and didn't do that.
So
Okay, all right.
here's another thing, though, and maybe I'm just this is just a thought is, what if Eloise makes a mistake that Jean doesn't like? Like there's very little conflict between them
Exactly.
two, right?
You're
So
hitting
it's-
the nail on the head
It's
there,
not
yeah.
just about her appearance to me. It's that she can't do wrong, even
Right.
though she's married to someone else and she's having an affair, and yet John doesn't seem troubled by that at all. So I think having a little more friction between them and instances where he can be like, wait a sec, maybe that's not cool, or maybe I'm not happy with that, I think would actually enrich their relationship a lot.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I'm working on. And make sure I wasn't trying
Just have him
to fix my problem.
think about these things within
Yeah.
his head, just thinking through them.
The thing that
Right.
I notice about female characters a lot, written by male authors, I guess, and maybe this is like kind of changed in recent years or something, I'm not sure, but they just seem so kind of like you said, Chris, like flawless. Like
Yeah.
female characters never have to pee, and they they never like drink too
What are you
much
talking
or say
about,
bad
Carter?
words.
What
and
is
it's like,
pee? I don't.
We don't pee.
What are we talking about now?
but you know what I mean? It's
but
like,
you're absolutely right. And I think I was talking to Jane about this before the podcast, and like it's almost like I'm messing up like a manic pixie dream girl side. Like it's almost that, but not quite. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's
yeah, it's like they're too idealized.
too
It's like-
idealized and not enough flaws, like you said. Yeah, they do pee. Women pee.
Are you sure?
I've heard.
Wow, we have learned all kinds of things on this podcast.
Yeah, but so this is something
not
I'm
photosynthesize.
struggling with, and I do, and thinking about it in my own writing, similar to what you said, Jane. Like I see this all the time in other writing, and it drives me bananas. And yet there I go, I did it.
I know.
But I'm gonna fix it in draft 3.
Yes.
And I think
the
you're
spirit.
perfectly capable of fixing it.
Thank you, Lucy.
As well, I think speed is against you as well. You have to remember you're writing this during NaNoWriMo, so
That's
you're writing
true.
things very, very
That's true.
fast. You'll fix
That's
it in the
true.
third draft.
But I
It's all
really,
about editing.
yeah, it's all about editing and not pissing off Hope. That's the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a number one.
So shifting from my other gripe,
There's more.
there's more.
There's always more.
So I would call it soapboxing. It's like you're reading a book and the character just starts a soliloquy that is just like clearly the character is just a stand-in for spouting the writer's political views. Nothing drives me more crazy than that. I gotta have a well-rounded character. It just can't be a mouthpiece for some sort of screed, for lack of a better word.
Well, I mean, the worst one is when John Galt gives his 56-page speech on the radio. First of all, I'm like, how is the radio gonna, anyway, yeah, it was 56 pages.
Oh, God.
I'm impressed
John
you got to
Galt
the end of Atlas
scream.
Shrugged just
I
for a
know.
start off the...
Yeah,
Impressive.
seriously. But let's talk about why it's bad.
At the most basic level, they're not rounded characters. It's not a real character.
It's like a wooden facade of a person who's just literally has no agenda in their life except to convince people that communism, for example, is the way to
Right.
to
And it
live.
takes you out of the story.
It takes you out of the story,
Yeah.
and people don't talk that way. People don't give long
Well,
soliloquies where everybody just listens and nods and goes, he's got a good point.
It can't be about the dialogue because nobody talks that way. I learned this one years ago in a Shakespeare class. They would say, "Oh, is that how people used to talk back then?" It's like,
No.
No.
when you go to see movies, is that how people talk? And we will go, "Oh." So it's the same thing as a book. Like, people don't talk the way they talk in books, but if they're going to go off, like, people go off all the time. But if it's not dramatic,
And if they do, they're unlikable.
yeah, and that's fine.
No
you
one
can have
wants to be
unlikable characters.
preached
There's-
to.
Yeah, but
I think I'm talking about more like when you have a character who's like explaining something very complicated and and everybody's sitting there going, "Oh yes,
yeah, and
I've
the
never
story
thought
just
about that
grinds
before."
to a halt.
And it's just tedious.
Yeah,
It kind
And
of
it
breaks
is-
the fourth wall
That's
for me
it.
too. It's like
Yeah.
it's like suddenly the author is talking to me and I'm not in a story anymore. I'm just like being preached to, like Lucy
Right.
said.
Yeah, I'm listening to the author argue with themselves about different aspects of like anti-capitalism.
And then you're not writing for people anymore. You're writing for yourself. You have to remember you're trying to entertain people with a book. You are writing for people so they can immerse themselves in another world. You're not educating them on a
For
subject.
sure. Now I do think there is a place for social commentary
Totally.
and stuff in writing, but it's got to be in the context of the story. It can't.
Totally.
If the first, like, you can smell it a mile away when somebody is more interested in giving a viewpoint than they are in telling a good story and making a good character. And for me, that's like, as soon as I smell that, I'm out.
Yeah.
Same.
I've got to feel like I'm not exactly going against what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just
Sounds
trying
like
to
you are.
think.
Do it.
I'm just trying to think of like the devil's advocate is that if that's the type of thing you want to write and you've got this message you want to say, like, I guess I can't really fault you for that. I'm just not going to read it.
That's what I'm getting at. I mean, I can completely agree with the politics involved and still be super annoyed.
And it's not as effective, right? Ultimately, if your goal is actually to change people's minds, then having just basically a lecture in the mouth of a character.
A manifesto.
As somebody who gives lectures all the time, I know exactly how effective they are, which is they are 0% effective. Rather than showing the sort of the systems alive in your world and showing
Right.
the
Right.
consequences
Right.
of certain belief systems or whatever.
That's the way to do it
Yeah.
in a novel, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to make like snappy conjectures about your political views, like just make memes and people will like them way more.
And then you can retweet them on Instagram.
Oh, love
I mean,
me.
This
it's
is all
not
very
like
smart.
communism isn't entertaining. Like,
Well, like, so this might be better filed under writing greats, but John Scalzi collapsing empire, like, it's a commentary about climate change and a lot of other things, like the dangers of monopolies, and so there's a lot kind of baked in there. But at no point does anybody go off on a 56-page long lecture about how corporations ruin everything. You just get to watch them do it, and so to me it feels much more effective than very long speeches. Yeah. So you can still write to theme. So I wonder if what we're actually really talking about is theme and the overwhelming presence of theme and how you should work with it a little better. Let the story talk about the theme. Don't talk about the theme yourself.
I also think as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, oh, we're just talking about show don't tell.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
show,
I was
don't
thinking
tell,
that too, yeah.
Yeah.
but
It all
this
comes
is a
back around.
specific moment of
Yeah.
annoying
So
telling.
it's show don't tell, and it's also like the author is not a character in the book.
or it can be.
It can be.
He or she can be, or they can be. But you don't want to insert the author through the mouth of a supposedly third person in universe.
Right.
Not at the
Right.
cost of the story.
Right.
I learned this one the hard way too. I wrote a terrible explanation of what gentrification was at the start of one of my novels, and very quickly realized that it's much more interesting to just show a character's life that is devastated by, essentially the same thing,
Absolutely,
gentrification,
yeah.
than giving 3-page explanation about what it is, because everyone knows what it is.
It's when the rent goes up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Welcome to the gentrification hustle.
We're covering all our bases
So-
tonight.
I have a gripe that is similar. I would say it's maybe a more egregious version of what Chris's gripe is. Something that really bothers me and that I'm also really paranoid about in my own writing is when characters from marginalized groups are in a story and their only defining characteristic is being from a marginalized group. I see this a lot more often in TV, I think, than in novels that I've read. So, but I also think it's something that writers in 2019 should really be aware of, and something that I try and sometimes fail to be aware of. But like, for example, if you have a transgender character in your story and their only purpose in the story is for your protagonist to accept them as transgender, that's a big problem, I think. And, it's something that like really bothers me, and also something that I think that a lot of writers probably think they can get away with because they want to show that like they have correct politics and that they're woke on these issues, but they fail to actually develop these characters,
Yeah, marginalized groups aren't like a quota that you have to fill. Like if you're just trying to fill a quota with marginalized characters in your story, then it's very obvious and it's very bad.
Yeah, they should be characters. They should be people with like,
Fully
well-rounded
rounded
backgrounds.
With flaws,
with
Yeah,
flaws
with
as we've
flaws.
discussed.
and good
Who-
hair.
Yeah,
Who
there
have
was,
to
Or
they have
bad
to-
hair,
Or bad hair, as long as you
know
notice their hair. That's what Chris is telling
7 times.
They should have to pee sometimes.
yeah, there was some stupid like writing advice meme. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see them. It was like don't make characters gay just cause, have a reason for it. And I'm like, no, fuck you. I don't need to have. I shouldn't have to have a reason for a gay character. Like gay people just happen. I'm waving my hand right now.
Yes.
Lesbian
like you
visibility.
exist.
Lesbian visit. Yeah,
Yes,
we just
absolutely.
we just happen, and then also we can be characters in the book. But gayness is not a character trait.
It's not a personality.
No,
Being gay is not.
some people try to make it, but they are wrong.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to be aware of, and try not to use people as props in your story for sure, because not only will it annoy me, but hopefully it'll annoy a lot of other people.
Don't annoy Carter.
It's the most important thing
Don't-
that doesn't annoy you.
Don't incur my wrath. I have a podcast.
You do?
So my other gripe is much more benign, but it's something that I personally suck at a lot, and that's when you fail to give adequate physical descriptions of your characters. A lot of times I
don't know what
write.
you're talking about.
Who said that? I have no idea. What do you look like?
Carter gives me that note all the time.
Yeah, you do it, and I do it too. I notice it when other people do it because I know that I do it. Where you write a POV character and you think that like just because they're the ones narrating the story, that it like doesn't matter what they look like or something. And then like sometimes when I'm reading something, I'm like 100 pages into a book, and I'm like, who the fuck does this person look like?
Why do you need to know what they look
that's
like,
what
Carter?
I don't know why you need to know.
Oh shit, you're gonna put me on the spot like that. So I think that if you want the character to be an avatar for the reader, then it's fine to omit physical characteristics. If not, I feel like you're missing a lot of the scene setting. And like when I'm reading and imagining a story in my head, I kind of imagine this like ghostly amalgam or something that I made up that might be totally different. And so I think that at least having some description of your character is really helpful.
But if you know that a character, if you've got the essence of a character and you know that they're rebellious, does it matter that you fill in
To
what
me,
their hair color
yeah,
is?
like I want some kind of tangible detail that can help me have a handle on what this character
That's
about.
So
Yeah.
one thing or the whole thing?
Yeah,
Maybe the whole thing.
glasses or tall or like just something that'll help me figure them out while they occupy space in my brain.
One thing
wanna
I
be
would
able-
agree with. Yeah.
I want to be able to see the image that the author is writing, because the author obviously has something in their head, and I want to experience that story. Not
For me,
my-
I don't really. I think I just make up what I think they look like, and then beyond that, I actually don't care. Like, okay, Jane Austen. I have no idea if Jane Bennett is blonde or brunette or what. Like, she's never described other than that she's very pretty. I have my idea of what she looks like, and I kind of don't need any more.
I agree. I'm going to agree with that. I don't necessarily need a solid physical description. I can fill in those blanks for myself. The only time it's useful to me is when something about the character's appearance or physicality is important to the story.
Yeah, that's what I would agree.
So
And
if it's a excessively tall
like
character,
the big man.
the big
man,
exactly,
and
very important.
It's a plot
Anton's
point.
story.
It's a plot point. Sorry.
I like to know how the character feels about themselves.
Yeah.
I think
actually-
that's
Yeah.
really important. Do
But
I move
I-
through the world confidently? Or...
But I get what you're saying, Carter, which is if you're 100 pages in the book and I have no idea who this character is, and I'm going to do a Chelsea air quotes, who this character is, then the first thing I'm going to grab is, well, what do they look like? But if I do know their emotional state or I do know something else, then I maybe don't care as much about what they look like. But if I don't have anything to hold on to, then the first thing I'm going to say is, well, how tall are they? What do they look like?
So, but here's my counter. Like you, Jane, you just brought up the example. You know that she's pretty, so that you at least know that the author wants you to imagine a pretty person. So they're giving you a bit of space. You also know that she's like a pale white person.
Probably, yes.
So that's two pretty decent descriptors, and from there that's enough to create whatever you want from there.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I do think if you're writing a marginalized character who looks different from sort of the default sort of dominant culture, then I think it is really important
absolutely.
to sort of establish that and push back against a default imagining.
Again, artfully, with
Yeah,
subtlety, and not
artfully and yeah, for sure. But yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth, because when I'm reading, I rarely pay attention to, I guess, physical descriptions, or it doesn't bother me when they're not there.
So I think over description is bad. Also,
For
you
sure.
guys are making me evolve my views in real time right
Oh,
now.
good.
Wow.
That's what it's all about.
ever.
So, and like, I don't mind having a character where the reader has to fill in. I feel like that's like what I was saying 20 minutes ago, is that it's important to let the reader fill in details. And over description is bad. You don't want a block of text. We talked about this in our previous gripe. This is like a gripe of yesteryear, where you have like huge long blocks of description telling the reader every detail about what a character looks like. I think my thing is I just need, like AP said, something to hold on to, or like
An
Anton
anchor.
said. Yeah, something that either makes the character feel different or tells me how they feel about themselves, or some like defining characteristic about them, just to get the story started, just so you can go along with them. Right, exactly. Just so that they're different from like any other character I might imagine in my head. And especially if you're writing fantasy or sci-fi, you can make it interesting, like you can tell me like, oh, this character has a bionic eye. Cool. Why? Like,
I'm totally against interesting.
right. I can tell from your writing.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Friday night, a few drinks have been drunk.
Mean Carter comes
gloves
out.
are off.
I'm just kidding. Your writing's fascinating. Anyway, somebody else
wasn't
gripe now. I'm getting
patronizing.
flamed.
I've got some gripes. I've got gripes for you. I
Lay
called
it
this
on us.
first gripe when magic goes too far.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this is when an author is so interested in their own magic system. Now, look, I read a lot of fantasy. I'm just going to back off and say, like, yeah, I get it. I like magic. We all like magic. That's what we're here for,
Big
right? Big fan. Strong supporter. However, do not mistake your magic system for world building, a character arc, or plot. Absolutely not. So, like don't spend so much time working with your magic system and trying to justify it and showing all the ways that it spins out in the world, and then like let your characters just be emotional wastelands of people, or have your plot be really, really boring.
Yes.
Because the magic system is supposed to take up all of that space. It's supposed
Yeah,
to
like
carry
and
the
I
story.
feel like maybe in like the 80s this was more acceptable, because we were like
Because everyone was on cocaine.
Yeah.
Lots of things were acceptable in the
Yeah, lots-
80s.
We've never
Lots of things were
seen
acceptable.
magic before?
Yeah, so I mean, but older school fantasy novels, where they're actually more concerned with delivering a really interesting magic system, but God at what cost?
Well, and I think there's a sci-fi corollary to that too, right? The sci-fi version is we're so into this idea and it's so cool. Characters, what are those?
Right.
They're
Science
just
is the
there.
most important thing.
Science is the most, and the characters are there just to explain the science to you. Yeah.
There's another aspect of this that I also hate, and it's when the magic system is too complicated. So I do surf the fantasy writers subreddit a little bit, and so I do see this kind of pop up on there, and it's like, I want to combine dragons, elemental magic, tarot cards, and like 4 other things into one magic system.
Oh,
and
I
so
wanna read
and so
that.
like, ooh, right. And so the author of the poster will have gone on for hundreds of words about the magic system, and then they're like, would you read this? Like, no. So my first question is
I'm not even finished.
my first question is always, well, where's the conflict?
Thank you. Where's the
Yeah.
drama? Yeah.
So
Right.
like if you are concerned that you might have one of these magic systems, think about taking out like 50% of it.
You just don't get it, Chelsea.
Look,
My space vampire unicorns.
well, my lesbians with tarot cards would disagree with you.
I totally get what you're saying, because the magic or the science should just be an element in the story. It needs to hold its weight, but it can't overextend itself.
It can't be the thing.
I think this is all a matter of preference. I mean,
Sure.
I think it's important to state that these are all our personal gripes, and it's all a matter of
These aren't
preference.
hard and fast
Because there are
rules, you mean?
plenty of people out there who will devour, let's say, sci-fi novels that have characters that I consider really boring, but they're so entranced by the ideas behind, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, so I think it's important to say these are preferences.
Yes.
These are not
Opinions.
rules.
I don't
Opinions
know.
of the genre hustle are their own.
Exactly.
Yeah, and obviously we're as guilty as every writer in the world, if not more so, of doing all these things.
Shame.
Yeah. And I will say, like, if you're developing a magic system for, say, a video game, like video games can support incredibly complex magic systems, in part because as a player, you start learning strategically and tactically how to layer the different. So, like, I could totally imagine, like, an elemental. I mean, Skyrim does this. Dragons, check. Elemental, check. Okay, tarot cards, not so, but okay, they're missing tarot cards.
That's a totally
but
different medium. I mean,
it's a different medium,
Yeah,
but there
that's
are
all
still
visual, like-
writers who write for
Of
for
course.
video games and who do come up with complex magic systems.
I don't always feel like that translates very well to the page, but that also might just be me.
I don't know. I mean, one of my biggest influences, like creatively, definitely is RPGs and video games. So I totally get the like drive to develop like a very complete and complex magic system. But also I feel like the more fantasy I read, and maybe sci-fi too, like the more, like, I agree with you, Chelsea. It's like to me, what I want is characters. I want to read about characters that are realistic and not necessarily relatable, but with conflicts that I can resonate with. And magic is a obviously super cool way, I think, to further those kinds of conflicts and develop original, like, imaginative worlds that your characters can inhabit. But
Yeah.
if magic is the story, then I'm
Exactly.
basically checking out.
Magic
Like,
does not take the place of conflict.
And you have
Magic
to remember who we're writing for as well. We live in the modern age in which the individual is everything. Our emotions and what we feel on a daily basis are very important in modern society. Whereas maybe they weren't so important, back in the day. We have so many outlets now. We have social media, we have Facebook. What we feel, we're all individuals, and so character, I think people want to see themselves reflected back.
So if
in
magic
books.
can be somehow an expression of a character's interiority,
There you go.
You've got something very interesting that I actually might, really be into.
or the way that they use it reflects an aspect of their personality
Yeah.
that someone can identify with, then yes. I just think you have to remember you're writing in a modern era, and
right.
people want to see personality, I think.
I think I have the opposite problem, which is that I'll sort of hand wave a lot of magic and I don't really develop a system
And magic
at all,
happens.
right?
Yes,
And I'll
we've
just,
seen that,
like,
Jane.
Yeah, like I'll just be like, oh, I need this to happen. Okay, it's gonna happen with magic.
Insert magic here.
But
Yeah.
that can work. I mean, if it's in the service of the story and the characters are there and the drama's there, it's fine. People they'll go with you.
I hope so.
I'm not saying it works.
If you will
There's a
not-
middle ground.
Yeah, there is a middle ground.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be logical. You can't break your own
Inconsistent.
rules.
Inconsistent.
Don't be
yeah.
crazy, Jane.
Don't break your own rules, but do not be obsessed with the rules.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, magic should defy rules, right? Well, who was it that wrote about that? I think N.K. Jemisin or somebody was saying like magic by its nature is magic. Like we shouldn't have to explain it. So I always thought that was really interesting. It's
I like that a
interesting
lot.
when I think about it.
I'm always intrigued by magic systems that the characters don't understand, that are like kind of like beyond the reckoning, or that the characters don't even believe in.
Or they have to explore.
Yeah, I always find that more interesting than like, you're gonna go to school to be an ice mage. Here's your
Yeah.
first ice mage spell.
I couldn't agree with you more.
That's a great book, Carter. Shut up.
So one of my favorite things about The White Queen by Philippa Gregory, and The White Queen is a historical novel, but it has magic in it. But the magic is so subtle. Like she calls herself a descendant of a witch, Melusine, but you never know if it's real or if she just believes it or if she just says she believes it. And then there's a spell that she does with her mother, which involves putting a length of line in the Thames, in the river. And then you're supposed to take in a foot of the line every day for some amount of time, and then whatever is caught on the end of the hook is your destiny. And I just thought, oh my God, it's and did her mother control that destiny, or is it prophecy? Is it divination? We don't know, and that was one of my favorite things about it.
When are you ever going to get something good out of the Thames? Like, what's coming out of there?
Somebody's hand.
Yeah, right.
A bunch of cholera-ridden, like...
Well, things don't, and spoiler alert, things don't really go so great for her, but yeah.
Anton, you've been remarkably quiet this
I was just
podcast.
thinking that.
Really?
Yeah. What haven't you got a gripe for us?
I have no gripes. I love it all.
Lies.
My gripe is so I started reading this book and I was really super excited about it. And then I'm about 100 pages in and I realized this is as far as it's going to get. This is as far as these characters are going to go. This is, and I realized like, I got to sit through 400 more pages of this. And I realized like, that's my gripe is when these books, we call it the promise. Like when these books don't deliver on the promise. And I realized like when these books don't deliver, like that's my biggest gripe.
When they kind of plateau,
They plateau. Yes.
I've had a similar experience, except sort of the flip of that, which is that I'm like, okay, good. Things are getting good. Things are getting good. Oh, it's over. Okay. That climax didn't happen where I thought it was going to. Like, it feels like it ends 200 pages too early.
Yeah.
I feel like that's good though, because that'll make you buy a sequel.
If there is a sequel, I mean, if there is one.
If a book pisses me off, I'm not gonna buy the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I'm reading the book and I get 50 pages in and like, oh my God, this setup is amazing. I can't, they've got this going, they got that going. And I'm 100 pages, I'm like, oh, cool, great. And then I'm 200 pages and suddenly I'm like, they're still doing the same shit. Like, what are they doing?
Or you get all the answers too early
Or
and you think,
something.
oh no, I
Yeah.
know everything now.
Or
And
this
now it just all has to play out.
Yeah, everything's telegraphed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or this plot point is coming and I'm like, yeah, don't care.
So
Don't care.
I know what book you're talking about. I'm experiencing something similar with the book that I'm reading. We're talking about two different books. But I'm starting to wonder, I'm just going to put this out there, if it's a conflict issue. Because I can kind of tell from mine that the author, like, I think he knows where the climax is going to be and what the climax is going to be about and who it's going to involve. But getting us there, like, we just took this left turn down some like shitty little side street
Yep.
to these characters and a story that
Right.
has nothing to do with the first third of the book and is actually boring.
Yes. And you expect me
Yeah.
to sit through the next 200 pages
So that
just
I
to
can-
get to this other thing. Like, no.
Exactly. And I just want to remind our listeners that conflict essential. Keep your eye on the prize.
And character development. The characters have to be, the arc has to be there. We have to see them growing. In a novel, I write these short stories where my characters do not grow, but we don't expect them to do that. These are comic books that I write. But in a bigger book, you expect these people to do stuff, and things change, and they move, and they turn.
I think the heart of what you're saying is that, there's a great idea that doesn't play out, and there's nothing more disappointing than investing days and days and days reading a novel where things get static and don't move forward.
Yeah, and your whole thing is like, oh, I'm just going to plot through this to get to the second book. Like, no. That's wrong.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
So, all right, as writers, how do you avoid that?
Write a good book.
Yes.
Well,
just be a
okay,
good
so
writer.
start with writing a really good book. But I also
kidding.
want to put out there, like, use setting changes to keep things interesting and lively.
No.
Make
Listen,
things hard for your characters. I always come back
Yeah.
to that. Like, don't give them easy outs.
the answer is plotting.
Plotting.
You always
Always.
go back to this.
There's so many answers,
Structure.
apparently.
The answer is plotting. Outline your novel, get the plot points, everything else.
No,
you
but
just
I would no. I'm going against you on this one, AP, because
How dare you?
because this book is plotted clearly. He's got 3 of them.
But he didn't plot any of the character arcs.
So you're
So he's
saying
not
you're
plotting
saying you have to
characters.
plot the character arcs.
course.
But we're saying
I mean,
the same thing.
he's a little right.
Who's right? I'm lost.
AP,
right.
AP's
I'm
right.
always
I know
AP's
I'm
right.
wrong. But
You have to. The characters. There has to be conflict at every turn. It has to be hard for them. They can't be easy. They can't just get to a place and I'm just going to go here. There it is. No, it has to be hard at
man.
every turn.
Yeah.
Every turn.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to carry a reader through the book and
Yes.
to hold their attention. And like I was joking when I said write a good book, but I think that like there really are a lot of ways that you can really pull it off.
Yeah,
I've
you
read
can-
books where
Totally.
I've read books with totally static characters who don't learn shit and don't change at all over the course of a
And there's
1,500
and,
word.
and there are different readers for different books. I mean, there's audiences for everything out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you have really strong characters, readers will forgive, maybe
much everything.
a non-traditional plot structure.
Yes.
Or if you have an incredible plot with a ton of conflict, then maybe
Yes.
you don't need your characters to develop a ton through the
Please
story.
see the Midpoint episode.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I agree. If you can do a thing really well, then I think it can carry a reader. I'm reading The Magicians, for example, and I think that I think there are some structural problems with the book. The foundations are very shaky of the story, in my opinion, especially concerning the antagonist forces in the first book. But his main character has a certain wit to him and a certain viewpoint on the world that is entertaining enough to allow me to read the whole thing and be like, okay, that's kind of funny, or it's sort of interesting,
Sure.
his take
Yeah,
on
he definitely has a grasp of that
things.
main character. And
Absolutely.
I
And I'm
agree.
kind of chuckling, because it's funny. But there are issues. So I think if you can do one thing really well and play to your strength, if you know what your strength is and you can play to it, then
Right.
do it. Don't write against your strength.
Right. I mean, it's like, I might be alone in our group of 7 here, but I like William Gibson, and
I'm with you. I like
William
William
Gibson.
Gibson.
Yeah.
but like sometimes I read like Mona Lisa Overdrive, and I still don't know what happened in that book, but like and like the plot is just insane, and the characters are very
It's a little
removed,
opaque,
and it's
yeah.
hard to get into, but like, man, that guy can write a sentence.
Yeah.
And it's
He
just
can,
like,
he can.
he plays to his strengths, like you said, and it carried me through the whole book, and I thought I thoroughly enjoyed reading it, even though I was still not really
I feel
sure
the
what
same
happened.
way about Ubik by Philip K. Dick. I read
Yeah.
it and I think, I have no idea
That
what's
book is bizarre.
happening, but
That
it's
is
so
bizarre.
interesting.
But I'm a big fan of Ubik, actually. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was our gripes.
That's a lot of gripes.
I feel
All right,
pretty,
well,
I
that's
feel
been a
pretty
2-hour
griped out.
episode. I
We
think
got to
did
save the
pretty
rest
good.
for next season,
Yeah.
We'll be back with more gripes, but
Yeah.
let's keep in mind too that like these are just things that bug us. Most of the time we're very positive people.
we
I
actually
think.
ended on a very positive
Yeah,
note, talking
yeah.
about things we enjoy.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It always comes back to that in the end.
So, why don't you reach out to us and tell us what your gripes are? We've got tons of gripes swimming around our skulls, battering around in there. Tell us yours. Hit us up on Twitter at Genre Hustle. Email us at thegenrehustle@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We're on Instagram. We posted a cat pic today that did fantastically. That's also Genre Hustle. If you want to come give us a photo comment and tell us what you hate about our writing or our faces or anything like that, we'd love to hear it.
And please feel free to give us a review on iTunes. Help us be more visible.
And like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you.
That's season 2, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Good job.
See you
Have a
later.
great summer. Keep in touch.
Bye.
See you in season 3.